Welcome, everyone. Phil Pravda from suitcafe.com, and welcome to another episode of It's All Been Done Before podcast. And as you know, I always have very interesting guests. And what does it mean that it's all been done before? What it means is that someone is in business or wants to get into business, and that business has been running or has been already ongoing or has been done by somebody else, and they want to get into that business, and they see an opportunity and a way to do it a little better their own way. And they take that opportunity and they run with it and they make it successful for themselves. And today we're going to talk to Charlie Marcelin, who is the son of Carlos Marcelin, the owner of CRM Jewelers. They've become very famous on YouTube. I think they're approaching 400,000 subscribers, and Charlie could speak to that a little bit. And they have a beautiful Instagram channel, and they really do full-length videos where they show the lifestyle of the CRM brand and what they sell, not only jewelry, but also luxury watches, which I do think is their main business. And luxury meaning Rolex, Patek, Audemars, and the famous Richard Mille, which everybody's all a buzz about. And we're going to talk to Charlie now. And Charlie, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, brother. I really appreciate it.
So it's great for you to be here. And, tell me, I know your father started the business. If you could say, how long ago did he start? And when did you decide to really work with your father? Because you're a young guy. What are you in your maybe late 20s or so?
Yes, sir. I'm 27 years old. My birthday was January 7th of this year. So.
Oh, great. So happy birthday. So how did your father start? And then what made you interested in getting involved in the watch business?
Okay, so the story, not a very, I guess, passionate or crazy story. It's actually pretty funny. So my father was always into watches. This is how my father got in. He was always into watches. And every time he had a situation where he needed some money, his watches were always his investments. So he would always, situation arise, he needed some money, he would sell his watch and he would get the money, take care of whatever problems he had, and then go ahead and when he made his money back, go ahead and buy another watch. So he was pretty known by some jewelers here in downtown, which are still here today. And he was always buying watches since my father was 20 years old. My father's first watch was actually my first watch at 8 years old. So I've always had watches as well, and I've always liked them. And then after a while, his friends would start asking him, hey, I know you know a lot of jewelers in downtown. Can you find me this watch? Can you find me this watch? And my father just one day was like, you know what? I'm always doing the favors. Might as well just make some money on it and start a business off of it. Because my father used to be own a construction company doing Keystone, which is, not sure if you're familiar with what Keystone is.
No.
It's it looks like limestone in a way.
Mm-hmm.
People put it like on, back in the days it was like in style to put it like on the columns, like to have those stone columns and stuff like that in the houses. So he kind of got tired of doing that construction, started selling watches out of a friend's shop. And then the shop was so tiny that he would have to go outside to go do a deal. And then I think 8 months, I'm not too sure on the time period, but he went and he opened up the first store, which it was tiny. I think the store was maybe like 8 feet by 20 feet. So it was a very like narrow, maybe not even 20 feet, maybe like 15 feet. I remember it was just enough space for like 2 desks barely fit there. And we used to get the watches. He started off with 3 watches when he first started in his friend's store, but then by the time he got to the store, he probably had like 10. Mm-hmm. But so our store would look full. He would buy the biggest Rolex box and put each tiny watch in these boxes, fill up the display cases.
So in the beginning, was it a retail storefront, or he was making appointments with people who would come see him in like an office space?
No, it was, our first store was a retail storefront. It was just a tiny store.
Right.
Like it was kind of like an office, but with glass display. And I have pictures of that that Dan has posted every once in a while on the
Is it Instagram. In the area where you are now? You're downtown in
Miami,
Miami, right?
It's in 2 buildings over.
Oh, so right in the
floor,
same
maybe
area.
So maybe like a 2-minute walk. There's a couple of other jewelers who occupy that space now. But I think I was like in high school, and I never liked high school, and I never did good in school just because I was always very smart. I loved to learn, but I didn't like the school system.
Right. You were too smart for school. That was the problem.
Nah, I don't know about that, because there's a lot of smart people who are a lot smarter than me in school, but it wasn't my thing. And I don't feel like everybody to shine needs to go do the same path. I think everybody's path is unique and different. And so some people learn by experience, some people different ways, million ways to become successful in life. So then my father told me, he was like, hey, you're not doing nothing, come work for me. So then I would leave school at 11, and then eventually I just stopped going to school and I started selling watches.
So you started
And
when you were in high school. So you started really young.
yeah, like at 17, I've
So
been in it
full
for,
time. You were like full time at 17, practically.
yeah, pretty much. I would leave school early and then just go into there. And then I was always on and off because like I was young and hard headed, still hard headed sometimes now. But I would just like not want to go to the store or for various reasons. So then for multiple years, I would always sell a watch, at least one watch a month,
Mhm.
to my clients, but I was never at the store. Like after maybe like the first 2 years, I stopped going. And then that's when we had a couple of other employees come in, which they used to do the YouTube videos and stuff like that. And then um
So
I started getting.
when did you get in the store that you're in now? What year was that?
So I wasn't here when they first moved into the store, but I think it was like 7 years ago, something like that.
Mhm.
But I wasn't in here. I wasn't full time. So like
Right.
that, I would come maybe to the store once every month and a half, once a month. And I would just send clients over the phone, be like, hey, look, this guy's gonna go in to go buy this watch. So I would always do that. And then I went to like an aviation school and it was fun. I liked it. I learned it was like a technical. And then the teacher, I was still selling watches at the time. And the teacher goes, you know what? You're never going to be an airplane mechanic. And then I thought about the way I sounded and I said, my family owns a jewelry store.
Mhm.
You're right. I'm never going to be a mechanic. Why am I even doing this? So like his threat to me was one of the, like, you're right. Why would I go from throwing away this opportunity to becoming a
Right.
mechanic, which is a great paying job and it's a great job and it's a respectable job, but it made no sense for me.
Right.
So then after a couple of years, um, believe last year it was like right around when my sister was born and my stepmom was pregnant and the whole pandemic was happening. I was already starting to come back into the store every once in a while because I had a couple more clients. And my father said, hey, I need you to run the store for like a week because you kind of know the pricing, you kind of know this, you kind of know that. And like, I can't be at the store. Once I go to the hospital for your sister to be born, I can't come
Sure.
out.
Sure. Someone's got to run the
So
store. Someone's got to open. Someone's got to close.
pretty much. So we have my whole family here, but about knowing watches, knowing if watches are fake, like examining watches, purchasing watches,
Right.
nobody really knows like my father. And now I'm learning. So I started those 2 weeks and then it kind of caught my interest a little bit more again now that I'm older. And then we started the YouTube channel. And then that YouTube channel is kind of was like my slap in the face, my eye opener, my what brought my passion for this. And I have this conversation. If you want me to keep on talking, or
Yeah,
you want to
sure. No,
ask
it's great. Yeah, talk about
okay.
the YouTube channel because you're a young guy. Your father is what, almost 50, right?
Yeah, my dad's 47, I'm 27. We're
Okay,
20
so
years apart.
he's a very young guy. I mean, he talks a lot on the videos about, oh, I'm going to retire when I'm 50. He's not retiring when he's 50. He's very young. I mean, he could open two, three, four more stores if he wanted to. Easily he could expand in different parts of Florida, try another state. He could do a lot of things, at his age, and he's got you to help him. But you're a young guy, so you're probably the more tech savvy guy. You're the
um yes, I would say yes and no, because I don't think I'm more tech savvy. It's just I think that person would be my uncle Dan. Dan is a
right.
very tech savvy person. And then my dad has more of that sales mentality of like the hustle, like to go forward. My dad is one of these people that it doesn't matter what environment you put him in, he'll shine. It's My dad is one of these people that will sell ice to an Eskimo and salt to a slug. Like,
Right. Well, he's a
and
real
it's not
hustler.
because
Just the
it's
way
not
you
because he's a pushy
explain how he,
salesperson.
yeah, just the way you explain how he started the business, just with a couple of
Correct.
watches and no real place to go, where in a space with somebody else, and then
Correct.
realizing, look, I could go on my own and do it for myself. That's the real, hustling mentality.
Correct. So my father has always been a very driven person and highly motivated person. And my father came from, if you see his house where he grew up in Cuba, came from nothing, from like dirt and rocks, pretty much. When we
Right.
started this business, my dad was living in an efficiency and driving an old truck and shining and taking pictures of cars, you know what I mean, exotic cars on the street with a watch. And it wasn't fake it till you make it, but he never said it was his. You know what I mean? He was just
Sure.
finding innovative ways to attract attention. And people want a lifestyle, as unfortunate it is to say it, in this day and age, people want a lifestyle that isn't theirs. So people see crazy watches, people see exotic cars, people see a lot of cash, of crazy fun lifestyle. People want to have that lifestyle.
Yeah, well, in
So
in the luxury business, which is what you're in, and what also, when I had my stores, what I was in, there's always different collections of different brands. So, I guess Rolex owns Tudor, a part of it, or used to own part of it. So, Tudor is more reachable for a lot of people than Rolex. So you
correct.
could aspire to own the Rolex, but right now I got the Tudor. Right now I have the Tudor, and
Correct.
soon I'm going to get the Rolex. So it's just like that. And the same thing happens in clothing. You have secondary collections and you have the primary collections.
I'm gonna get into that conversation because that's a very important conversation I have with a lot of my clients about what you're saying, the Tudor and the Rolex. But I'll mention that again, and then we'll
Sure,
bring
sure,
that up.
sure.
But to keep telling you about what I was saying with the YouTube and like what made me go into it, um, it wasn't until I started having people come into my store and seeing the experience and the smile on their face, whether they bought a watch from me or not, and their gratitude that piece of my store, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't come to waste your time, but I don't have the money to buy it." I'm like, like you have to understand something. The fact that you took 10 seconds out of your day to even wave at me, I'm very grateful for that. Because to me, I'm a regular person. To me, I'm a regular kid who grew up in this. Some people are like, "Oh, you're famous, you're a celebrity, you're this, you're that." No, I'm a regular person, and I think what's changed me the most and what drives me to keep going and to do things like this and do the videos, and it's honestly, I didn't have a passion for watches. My passion for watches grew now. My passion for watches grew because I see the passion that people have in watches. And I realize the importance of what a watch means in the history of a man, from a child to a man. And it's what we were saying about now the Tudor.
Right.
When you have nothing in life, or even if you have something, if you grew up with money, you didn't grow up without money, that little Rolex crown means everything to you, because it's not about the money, it's about a symbol of success. Why? Because every successful man has a Rolex, like quote unquote, you know what I
Right.
mean? So it's a symbol of status, a symbol of achievement, a symbol of accomplishment. Yes, there's a lot more luxurious brands, Patek Philippe, Audemars Piguet, Richard Mille. There's all these things. But in my eyes, why the Rolex is so important is because it's a working watch. It's a luxury watch for a working class person. You can be a person who makes a salary of $40,000-$50,000 a year, um, which in today's days is not a large salary, and you can put away $100 a month for X amount of years, and eventually after 10, 15, 20 X amount of years, you can buy yourself a Rolex Mariner. So it's like it's a sense of accomplishment. Maybe you were blessed enough that you can buy a Rolex Mariner when you were 14 years old, 15 years old, that your parents gave you the luxury of it. Awesome. But it kind of gives you that that goal to work towards. So once you finally get that Rolex and you get that little crown, it gives you that feeling of empowerment, of accomplishment, of like, I did this. You go into realizing that you're just in the beginning, that there's AP, there's Patek Philippe, there's this, there's that. But at the end of it, once you go through all the brands, let's say you're a billionaire, you can afford these crazy Jacob and Co's and these all these Richard Milles. And once you get to all that, you realize that there's perfection in simplicity. And that Rolex, at the end of the day, is all you ever wanted. It's all you ever needed. And while yes, it was cool, and yes, you had the money to experience, and yes, you set your goals and you climbed and you did everything, there's something about that little child inside of you that you remembered when you didn't have nothing, and that Rolex crown meant everything to you. So that's why I like buying vintage, and John Mayer says it in his video. Buying a piece that was cool or popular when you were a child kind of gives you that feeling of what it was like to be in that position when you were that age. So that's kind of why I like vintage, and why I like Rolex, and why Rolex means so much to me, because it's obtainable. It's a goal you can work towards. And it's more than just, hey, look what I have on my wrist. It's like, this is my trophy to myself for all my accomplishments in my life. And you're putting the crown on yourself. So that's what it means to me. And that's kind of what grew my passion, and just seeing people and their stories, and like, why? Because in reality, I know it sounds crazy me saying this, you don't need a watch. The last reason that you buy this is to tell time. You really don't need this. You need it as a sense of accomplishment for you. Your phone tells better time than a watch does. So
Right.
when people tell me what is their driving force of spending 100, 200,000, 500,000, $5,000 on a watch, and the people explain to me their story behind it, that's kind of important. That's my driving force. That's the reason that I do what I do here.
Well,
So
that's very well said. And I'm sure every person who's buying a watch or selling a watch, there's a story, behind that watch. And then there are people out there who, just like you said, a watch is there just to tell time in the end. But there are people who understand that it's just like with anything, with cars or with clothing. The car gets you from place A to place B, but does it have to? It could be a Chevy or it could be a Porsche. You're still getting to the same place. But why does the person buy the Porsche? Just because they have the money, they could afford it? It's showing that they've done something in their life, that they've made something in their life. Or maybe like a watch, people buy watches as gifts for other people, and they choose the Rolex, or they choose a Royal Oak, or they choose these brands because they want to say, hey, this is something that person's going to have forever. They're going to cherish it. They're going to remember why they had that watch. Every time they wear it, they're going to remember me, and maybe they'll hand it down. What is the saying that Patek uses? You're only holding it for
never
the
own
next
a Rolex.
generation.
Correct. You never own a
Right.
Patek Philippe. You hold it for the next generation.
Right.
Exactly.
So you just have that Patek now, which is a funny thing because, when my parents got married in 1965, my grandfather bought my father an 18 karat gold Patek Philippe,
Nice.
and he
Very nice.
still has it. He still has it.
You gotta send me a picture.
It looks totally vintage. That has that vintage look,
That's awesome.
but
That's
it's a
awesome.
1965 Patek. Who knows? I have no idea what it cost back then, but that was the gift to give to the new son-in-law, basically, because you're getting married. So, that's something you never sell. You're going to hand it down to the next, to the next person, So when it comes to Rolex, and I know the prices have become astronomical for all the watches, pretty much.
Yes.
What is the opening price? If somebody wanted to get in, say, look, I don't have that much money, but I want to spend, can you spend less than 10 grand now and get a simple stainless steel Rolex?
For an older piece, yes.
Mhm.
There's certain things I don't like to say because they look bad on camera, but at my store, I don't think I have anything in that price range.
Well, you're gearing towards, your clientele, so you don't have to carry those pieces. That's all it
Correct.
is.
Correct. So it's not that I tell people is that I don't want a cheaper client or somebody who doesn't have money. It's not that. It's that my main focus and the reason I don't sell Tudor and the reason I don't sell Omega and the reason I don't sell all these brands is now they're picking up because all the brands are picking up. But back then, those watches didn't hold as much value
Right.
and weren't as close to retail or over retail like these other pieces, like the main brands that I sell.
So what are the brands you actually have in the store? What do you actually have in the store?
So for the most part, what I sell is Rolex, AP, Patek Philippe, and Richard Mille.
Right.
Richard Milles, I don't stock too many of them because I rather stock more Pateks and APs than anything. Those I think were the big investment pieces. That's where the money maker is for the client and for me.
Right.
What I mean by the money maker is a lot of the times I'm buying this AP and I'm sitting on it, the value is going up. So every month or every week that I watch inventory, it's increasing in value. So I'll sell it if it's at the right price because I'm not going to short sell it because I know I hold it for a week and I can get an extra amount of money for it.
Well, your business to sell. Maker.
Correct. Right. But the business, why it's a money maker for my clients is because it continues to do that. Whoever's hands it in it's in. So whether my client buys a watch, I've had clients who bought watches from me, kept them in the box, put them in the safe, and sell them back to me 6 months later and to like double their profit. Like
so how many clients are coming to you saying, I want to buy 1 or 2 watches because it's going to be an investment, I'm not wearing it? And how many people are buying and say, I love that Rolex President and I'm going to wear this every day because I love the watch and I'm wearing it? They don't care that it's the got the green face or the chocolate face. They just want the one that they like because they're wearing it.
Okay, so mostly nowadays, because everything is going up such high in price, people are buying most of these watches for investments. The cool thing is about a watch that's not like a car.
Well, the car, as soon as you drive it, is worth less money. Pretty much.
Yeah, well, in today's market, it's not like that now.
Well, I know today's market is crazy. Everything, you can't get a discount on a car. People are paying over list price for cars.
Correct, correct,
People are
correct. So,
paying to get the slot to order a car, just to get the slot to order a car.
correct. So what happens is that a new watch is a new watch and a pre-owned watch is a pre-owned. Doesn't matter if it's pre-owned. Like, yes, they do have slight play in this and that, but it's not such a big difference. So a watch that has a couple scratches on it, you can get it detailed, and then you have these people who are like, no, don't polish the watch, it destroys it. If you polish a watch poorly or wrong, yes, it does affect the resale value. I've seen watches detailed that people who work with these watches every day and people in the AP stores have told me this watch is brand new. And I'm like, no, this watch is a
Right.
6-year-old watch and it's been detailed before.
Now, is that with any watch? If you have it polished too many, I know it probably takes a layer of metal off the watch, but is that with any watch or just with a certain brands that people
No,
say you shouldn't
with
polish?
vintage, it does affect the price a lot because since they're so old, you want to keep them as
Original as possible.
Correct. But with newer pieces, you get like slight scuffing on the bracelets. I'm wearing a
Yeah.
vintage right now, but you get like slight scuffing here on the bracelets.
It's inevitable.
You could touch it up and it's really not that big of a difference. So that a detail affects the price. If it goes from new to pre-owned, yeah, but a pre-owned watch that's a little scratched up, obviously no heavy damage, no dings, no dents, gashes, stuff like that, to a watch that's used with one scratch versus 10, it doesn't change the price. So most people just buy the watch, wear it, and then scratch it up for 2 years and then sell it and still make money on it. So I tell people all the time, and I'm stressing it constantly on the YouTube, wear your watch. And people are like, oh, I'm gonna wear it for a special day. And I tell them every day is a special day, that you're healthy, you're alive, and you're walking.
Of course, yeah.
I feel like if you had the luxury of spending whatever the amount of money is, whether it was $100 or it was $100,000 on a luxury watch, it's a blessing, because some people wish they had those $20 to eat today. So today's a special day. Wear your watch, use it, scratch it, enjoy it. Either way, that watch is gonna outlive me, you,
of course,
our great grandkids. That watch is gonna outlive. So wear it and enjoy it.
So the most clients that come in, if they're selling you a watch, they're basically trading in. Are they also trading up? Or do they ever switch brands, or people really stay loyal to the brand that they like?
People constantly switch. They kind of work their way up their ladder. Like I said, you start at all the brands, Omegas, Tudors, Breitlings. People usually get that, and then when they can afford their Rolex, they get their Rolex. I mean, I'm not saying that Omega people cannot afford Rolexes, because there's people who are, you know what I mean, Omega fans.
Yeah, yeah.
But usually that's how it works. People get more affordable watches, and you go to Rolex. Then from Rolex, you go to your gold Rolex and your stainless APs, and your gold APs, and your stainless Pateks, and your gold Pateks. And I think
Rolex, you could have a few, because the watches have different uses. There's diving and there's dressy and there's different things.
But that's what I tell people, is just don't go ahead and buy the most expensive watch you can afford to show off. Your watch is for you, not for anybody else. So go through the ladder. It's kind of fun. It's kind of like a circle of like a watch collector's life. And that's what I was explaining earlier about, you go through all the brands and then you realize that Rolex was home all the way. So it's kind of fun. It's kind of enjoyable. And you make the money going through it, of going through the steps and seeing what your true passion is. I've been blessed enough where I have all these watches accessible to me. I've worn everything from the full diamonds to all yellow gold to all these pieces. And I always used to think people are crazy. Why would you pay X amount of money for a watch and not want it to look like gold? Like, what? And now I totally understand it. Now I'm like, all right, give me the craziest looking vintage with the patina on the dial. The watch costs $500,000, and it's like, oh, look at my Richard Mille. I was like, okay, cool. I'm not showing off.
I could tell you, it's interesting you say that, because the first real luxury watch that the first real luxury watch that I bought was a Vacheron Constantine. But I'm going to ask you about Vacheron in a minute. But it was in 1992, I bought the Royal Oak stainless steel. And the reason I bought, and it just had the plain textured gray face, that charcoal gray face. And the reason I bought that, what
was it, 39 millimeter?
I'm not, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what it was. It was a nice size. I mean, my wrist is not that big. It was a good size. And I'm really not a Rolex kind of person. You know, my father has a Rolex. So I was with him on a business trip. We were in Geneva, 1986, and he bought his first Rolex. He bought 18 karat Jubilee band, and he has a lapis lazuli face.
Oof, does he still have that?
He still has it. Yes.
Beautiful. That's a very extremely rare dial. That
I'm
is
sure. Even the
beautiful
band to
watch.
have that Jubilee gold, the whole thing gold with the lapis face. So I was with him there. So I was not really a Rolex person. The reason, and it was to your comment you just made before about the vintage, I picked the Audemars because in those years, in the early 90s, unless you were into watches and you walked out on the street in Manhattan, nobody knew what a Royal Oak was.
Correct.
Everybody knew what a Rolex was. If you showed your wrist, oh, that's a Rolex. Nobody knew Audemars. Nobody knew Royal Oak. And I could have bought the Nautilus at that time too in stainless steel, but I didn't really like it. The Royal Oak was like my favorite. And I'll tell you how much I paid for it in 1992. And I got a discount on it from Tourneau, because Tourneau, I was on 51st and Madison, and Tourneau was on 52nd. That was Tourneau Corner. They had a big store there. I paid $5,000 for it.
Oh, that's crazy.
1992. And the Patek was more, but I didn't really like the Nautilus, you know. So anyway, just to talk to that, the comment you made before, I bought it because nobody really knew what it was. And I knew the brand, but no one else really was like into that kind of thing. And that's why I bought it.
That's a thing that I've realized when I started. It was maybe like around 2012, 2013 with my father. And my father was always into watches, but he never knew what like Royal Oaks were. He's heard of Patek Philippe, he's heard of this, but until he started getting more into the watches, and he was like, oh, this is watches for like generational wealth. This is watches for like high class. Like, unless you wouldn't see a young kid with a Royal Oak, unless
Right.
it came from a family of money, unless it was an educated family. What brought it into culture now, I think, was the hip hop industry, the social medias.
Oh,
So
definitely.
that
Definitely.
like that's what I was saying with my father when he started with doing the cars and the pictures. Nobody was doing that. Nobody was taking pictures of watches with cars. Nobody was promoting that lifestyle. And then people started, all these watch pages started popping up. I'm not saying my father was the first, but I remember we were one of that first
Right.
group of people to do it. And until then, nobody really knew what it was. And that's why kind of now I like those Patek Philippe's on the straps, those grand complications.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Those
I
are
like
amazing.
I like
Those are
those
unbelievable.
stainless steel Royal Oak tourbillons, minute repeaters, perpetual calendars. I like all that because, and I still kind of prefer the vintage Rolex and the Pateks on the straps or like FP Journe and stuff, because people don't know what it is. People think Patek and they think Nautilus. People don't realize that there's other watches
Mhm.
than 5711s and 5980s.
Right.
So that's kind of what I like. And I like to educate my clients on it and show them and teach them. And from everybody, all types of people, I teach everybody. And that's what I said. If you're willing to learn and me to guide you, I'll go ahead and teach you.
Yeah, well, that's the sign of a very good salesperson, because you're not just there to, so first of all, you're not going to sell somebody a Patek or a Rolex. You're not going to push them into it. That just doesn't happen
No,
in the luxury business, in the price category. You're not selling them, but you're there to educate them. Why
correct.
is one Rolex this price? Why is another Rolex that price? Why is the Patek more? They're both 18 karat gold. Why is the Patek so much more than the Rolex President? What makes the difference there? And you're there to educate them. But also, while you're educating, you know how to do it. You're selling at the same time, but you're doing it in a way that, you're not going to push somebody into, you walk into a Mercedes-Benz dealership, you're not pushing someone to buy a Mercedes. You know the price. So you have to educate them of the differences between the cars, the options and things like that, just like with the watches.
Oh, I lost you. Oh, you froze. I'm sorry.
Okay, no
Yes,
problem.
you were saying about to educate them.
Yeah, you're educating them just like I always did with the clothing. Why is Canali one price and Zegna is another price? Why is Brioni above all of them? Why is Keton 7,000? Why is Tom Ford 10,000? Why are all these different prices? It's still fat. I mean, in the clothing, you get to a point of diminishing returns. Is a suit really 10,000? No. I mean, sure, it has a price of that, but is it really worth 10,000? It's not worth 10,000. It's just fabric and sewing. But you
It's
have brand
but
and you
it's
have all those things involved.
correct. It's the
So
power of the brand, the prestiginess of it, the history, the importance of it, what it represents. So it's not just fabric and not just stitching. You're paying for a lot. People are like, "Oh, it's overpriced." It's no, it's not. You are paying. There's a reason I kind of hate that word overpriced, because if people are paying for it, it has that value. A diamond is just a rock. Is it an overpriced rock? No, because people are paying them.
Right. It's the market.
If it was overpriced and it was all hype, people wouldn't buy it. So yes, a Rolex you can say is an overpriced time telling machine. There's a lot more behind that. It's not just metal. It's not, you're not paying for materials. You're paying for history. You're paying for craftsmanship. You're paying for engineering, for respect, for everything. That's what you're paying for. You're not paying for a watch.
Yeah,
So
I totally agree with you. So in the scheme of the brands that you carry, what happened to Vacheron Constantine? What happened to Cartier? Why have they sort of, I mean, as far as I always knew, Patek was always number one because it always brought the most money in an auction. If you went to like, oh, you ever go to a jewelry auction or a watch auction? You should come to New York and go to these auctions where you could look at the estates of all different types of people. They get it together. And Patek always brings the most money of any watch. So it's always been known as number one. But Vacheron has really always been known as number two. But it seems that it hasn't participated as much in this run up of the pricing that's gone on. And why would that be? I mean, people are not wearing it on Instagram as much. People are not showing it on social media.
so I think like I was saying, Patek has always been known as number one, but Patek has always been a watch for kings and queens, luxury bankers, very high end market. So since it was number one, it caught people's attention, because always what's in first place catches people's attention. But I don't think that VC popped off so much in the hip hop culture and this and in the youth, that it brought so much light to it. Um, I know the new overseas are trading over retail.
Mhm.
I don't work with the brand,
Right.
not because I don't like the watches. I think they're phenomenal watches. They're beautiful. Their craftsmanship is crazy. It's more of, I don't know the market, and there's so much of what I'm currently learning now, and so much that I'm doing now, that while yes, I want to expand, I have to finish one thing before another.
Sure,
So
sure.
right now,
Well, just
I would-
not in the sense of you expanding, just in your general sense of watch knowledge. What
no, that's what I'm
is
expanding it
Vacheron
because
maybe an older customer? I mean, Patek has young people, has older people. Maybe Vacheron is just an older guy, maybe 60 and older,
I
who
think
gets
it's
that
more of
watch.
a passionate enthusiast, not hype, not
Right.
not media driven. A lot of the things I sell, I don't like it, but it's part of business. It's
Yeah,
the people
sure.
who just want it just for the money, just to show off what they have on their wrist.
Right.
It's my job to sell. I truly like the people who are like, hey, look, I have this, and this means this to me because of this. And whether it's, like I said, it's a very affordable watch, a very high-end watch. Tell me your story. Tell me the story behind the watch. I like that passion. I like the drive, that people who do it for them, people who do it because it makes them feel empowered, not people who empowered as in like something great you're doing, not empowered of like, I'm better than you. So, especially in a city like Miami, where you have people with Lamborghinis who are 10-year-old Lamborghinis, but just to say they have a Lamborghini.
Right.
So, to me, it's kind of one of those things that are just like, I, I think VC is for a very passionate person who
Mhm.
understands the craftsmanship of that watch and why that watch is better than a lot other brands in most cases.
Right. So that
So
was actually the first watch that I bought, was the Vacheron Constantine. I bought a solid 18 karat gold. The name of it was called Phidias. They made only a few hundred of them. And I bought that watch and I wore it every day to work in the clothing store. But eventually I was scratching it and I saw, oh my God, it's getting all scratched. So that's when I went and I bought the stainless steel AP and I wore that as the daily. And I saved the Vacheron for like, special occasion or dinner or something. I saved it. And that Vacheron, it's a quick story I'll tell you. I was on a vacation in the Caribbean. I forgot which island, and there was a watch store, and they had every kind of crazy watch you could think of. And I didn't have any luxury watch. I didn't have anything. I had like a Tag Heuer at the time, but it was all plastic. Remember they came out with the plastic ones that you can go in the water and the whole face was glowing. Anyway, this
yeah,
was early 90s. Anyway, so I got that Vacheron. I bought it in that store. It was 15,000. Then when I came back to New York, I went to Tourneau because my store was next to them. And I just wanted to check the price. And they gave me a price, 11,000 for the same watch. So I returned the Vacheron to the Caribbean. I sent it back to them because they had a 60-day money back guarantee. I sent them back the watch, and I bought the one from Tourneau because it was a big price difference between the two. I hate doing that, returning something, getting your money back, but the price difference was too great. But anyway, that's what that's what I do with that. So, and also in talking about Cartier to me was always about jewelry, although they make watches, and a lot of people like their watches, but they don't seem to be in that same. That I like Cartier watches somewhat, maybe not for men, maybe more for women, but they don't seem to be in that sort of same genre as the Rolex and the Audemars and the Pateks. They don't seem to fit in there for some reason.
Because I feel like they do the Cartiers, the Santos, all that with the diamonds and stuff. People do like that, but I don't know. I don't know what the reason is of that. The resale is not as good, but it's never been as good on Cartier as it's been on like Rolex and AP. But I do agree that they're more of a jewelry company, and I don't think a lot of people can compete with them in their jewelry, because come to Miami and you'll see whether it's fake or it's real. You'll see a lot of people with those love bangles on.
Yeah, those bangles, they're like 6,500 for one these days.
Yeah, and I doubt a lot of people have original ones.
Yeah.
Especially the amounts of people you see here in Miami.
Really?
But everybody, whether it's real or it's fake, everybody wants that love bangle. Everybody wants that nail.
The nail, yeah. Well, they have the love
bracelet
glasses, with the screws.
I had a set of them, so.
Yeah, they have also the one with the screws. You put the screws in the love bracelet.
Correct.
That was the first one they started with.
I wanted to ask you a question, because you're the first person who brought it up to me about the educating a luxury client. I think most salespeople I've talked to have not been in the luxury industry and have been in salespeople, because I tell people all the time, I don't feel like I'm a good salesperson, because a salesperson will sell you something you don't need at a price you don't need. I feel like I'm a very good relationship builder, and I educate people. And I like that you pointed it out, that at that price point, you're not pushing somebody over the edge to buy something. You're kind of teaching them, guiding them. And you're the first person, like I said, that I've heard say that. And I guess it's because you come from a luxury industry. But I don't know if you can agree with me or not. And I tell people all the time, the best salesperson in that point is a client, is a consumer, because they know how much they want to spend. They know what they want. It's just you to educate them on.
Right. You also have to remember too, and I learned this working for my father for many years, is that you can never, it's an old saying, you can't judge a book by its cover. You work in a retail store where during the day, what do you open? 10 to 6 or 10 to 7?
10 to 6.
Anybody could walk in. You don't know who's walking in. It's an open door. You don't have maybe have appointments with some regular clients, but anybody's walking in off the street. You don't know who's going to come in. And no matter what they look like or what watch they're wearing or what shoes they have on, you don't know who's going to buy what. So you have to treat everybody the same. You have to say, this is my store. This is what we carry. This is a Rolex. This is this brand or that brand. If they ask you the price, you tell them the price. You don't know what they're going to afford. Maybe they really can't afford it, but you help them and you took your time with them and you're educating them on what you have. And they might say, you know what? I'm going to try that Submariner. I never had a Rolex. It's a little stretch for me, but I'm going to go for it because I like you and I like what you taught me. And I could tell you story after story where I've had salesmen who worked for me in the store, and I worked on the floor, just like you work on the floor with your father. You help customers. And I guess you have other salesmen who work there too. I never really realized who the other salespeople were.
So I have a couple
who are
of
not family. You have other salespeople, not family members?
Yeah, I have Willie there. Willie speaks Spanish. So I help him in the English sales, but he mainly does like internet, like replying to DMs and stuff.
Right.
When a client walks through the door, usually the first person that will attend them is me. If I'm busy or occupied, then it's either my aunt or Willie, and then we have people who come in and fill in. Sometimes that's why sometimes even my aunt Betty, who's in accounting, will come and make a sale because
of course
it's too busy that we just need somebody else on the floor.
So I had 4 or 5, we had 5 stores all going at the same time in Midtown Manhattan. They're all kind of close to each other. So we had 4 or 5 salesmen in every store. Every store had tailors also. So, and we were selling brand names. We sold Hugo Boss, Canali, Zegna, Brioni. We sold all those brands, all the Italian high-end brands in the store. But I always took the last person to walk. I was always the last person to get we called it a call, the last person to take a customer coming in the door, because the other salespeople are really working for me. I let them take the customers who walked in first because they need it for their living. They need to make commission. They got salary plus commission. They needed to make commission. So there's always one salesman, and we had one for many, many years, who always tried to judge who's going to buy the most clothes that he could sell to the most. He would look at their watch. He would look at their shoes, what kind of suit they had on when they walked in. But you could never, ever tell. So one day a guy comes in, he's wearing a suit, not too new. He was like pulling like a piece of luggage, with him. Very nice guy. And the salesman was standing by the front, and he lets him walk right by. And I know right away, he doesn't want to help him because he doesn't think maybe he could afford a suit for $2,000, or he's not going to buy. Maybe he'll buy a tie. He won't buy a couple of suits. I could tell right away. I know him. I knew the salesman's mentality.
The guy felt like he was too important to attend that sale.
Right. He's standing there leaning on the wall, looking at whatever, his watch or whatever, and it lets the guy walk right by. So I'm not going to do that. It's my store. I walk over to the guy, say hello, how are you? You get into a conversation. What do you do? What are you interested in? Can I show you something? And sure enough, in about 35, 40 minutes, he spent almost 20 grand.
That's amazing. I love that when that happens.
The other guy was watching, fuming. He was fuming because he lost out on that commission because he let him walk by, Right. And now I became very good friends with this gentleman. And even to this day, although I don't have any retail stores now and I only work on the internet, and this is going back 2000, I don't know, I could have met him 2010, 2011. We're still good friends now. We see each other on LinkedIn. We see each other on Facebook.
The client?
Yeah. And he's not really buying much clothes from me anymore, but we keep in touch. How's your business? What are you doing? Turns out he runs a very big company. He's got like over 7,000 employees that work for him. And Obama had picked him on his business council to help him with small business. So he's just a regular guy who walked in just with a suit, but that's why you can't judge a book by its cover.
I learned that lesson at a very, very young age. I did martial arts from 8 years old to 19 years old. And I started working when I was like 13, 14 years old. And there was a thing that you would try to get memberships, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they would have me like passing out flyers, going to the grocery stores, doing all this. And then they told me, okay, we're going to teach you how to sell a program. So then I would go with the binder, tell them all the books, whatever. If you were able to get them to, instead of paying monthly installments, to pay a 2 or 3 year contract
right
in full, you would get a bonus.
Uh-huh.
So this guy came in a tank top and basketball shorts, some slips, some like flip flops.
Yeah.
And he walked into the store. The guy was full of tattoos. His whole neck, his hands, everything. And he walked in with his little son and little girl, and they're like, attend him. And I was like, okay, I guess they doubted the guy. They doubted me. I don't know. But that guy went and did 2 memberships, paid in full, bought all their gear from the beginning, did everything at once. And they're like, oh, no, wait, I have to go in to help. I'm like, no, that was me. And then the guy said, no, you guys didn't want to attend me. I saw you guys sent him over here. The sale's going to go to him. If not, I'm canceling. I'm going to another school.
Right. Same situation, same thing.
And I was like, you know what? That's awesome. And every single time I've had a client in here who I had some people walk in looking very crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you know what? Let me just talk to them. Like, I just talk to everybody. Everybody has a story to tell. And I just talk to them. And I've had clients who tell me, spend here 4 or 5 hours just talking to me. And I'm like, okay, like, I want to help them. But at the same time, I got things to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't bought nothing from me. And like, people be like, oh, you see, you wasted your time. But then that person will send me 6, 7 clients who buy big pieces from me. And I'm like, it wasn't a waste of time. Like,
right.
I gave him such a experience.
You never know.
Even he didn't buy from me. He sent me somebody where I did make a big commission on.
Yeah.
So you never judge a book by its cover. Some people, like, there's certain things, obviously, that you want to be careful for and look out for. And
well, being in retail, as long as you are now and your father is, you already hopefully know when someone walks in. Unfortunately, you do have to stereotype sometimes.
Of course.
But you have to watch yourself for security reasons and watch your merchandise for security reasons. And I noticed in your store, I don't really see any security. I mean, you got cameras going on all the time. So
we have about 35 cameras in the front.
Right.
You might want to clip this part out because I don't know if I can say it on the
So don't say it. No, don't say it then. We'll talk about it after.
Yeah.
But even so, if
the store is very secure for short of term.
Yes.
The store is very, very secure
Yes.
here.
But even so, I was thinking about it because, being in retail, you're always thinking, is someone going to try and shoplift something from you, or even not even shoplifting, which I'll talk about in a second. But when someone walks in your store, they're on YouTube right away. So any thief coming in, oh, I'm on YouTube. I walked out
Yeah,
with the
so
Rolex.
we're not recording 100% of the time,
I know, but they don't know that.
but we don't record all the time, but we do have all the security cameras rolling.
Right.
We do have Big Will all the time there.
Sure.
Like I
Now,
said,
what about
I did martial arts my whole life, so
yeah? What about which you could come into contact with, which you probably do, is credit card fraud.
So we have Betty for that. Betty is the whip. Betty is very strict. Betty doesn't play.
Right.
So when it comes to fraud, we kind of have it handled. And sometimes if we get any fishy feeling, we go through very extensive and sometimes a bit extreme measures. Like I'll have people call me on FaceTime with their ID.
Right.
I'll call the bank on the line with them and be like, okay, verify, connect three-way to the bank, verify your address, this, blah, blah.
Yeah, you have
And
to.
the bank will be like, this person is this person. And then if I have any doubts, a lot of times I'm just like, I won't do the sale.
Yeah.
I just
you were on one of your newer videos recently, and I commented on YouTube that there was a guy on the phone who wanted to buy maybe 1 or 2 Rolexes. And he said, oh, I was going to buy it from another guy, but he didn't want to sell it to me because my wire transfer was sort of strange. And I commented right away, this is never going to be a sale. And then when you spoke to the guy again, he said, oh yeah, though he was in New York or something. Maybe he was in Miami. He said, yeah, but the wire is coming from London.
Yeah, exactly. You see, like things like that.
I knew right away.
I don't care how much money you want to buy. No, have your friend from London send it to you. Send me your ID. I'm gonna verify the bank with you on the phone, and then send me it. And then I don't send merchandise out until it is cleared in my account.
Oh, of course, you got to have the money 100% in your bank account.
Not even pending, unless it says transaction completed. I don't do it because I've been frauded in the past. Last year, 400,000 or 500,000. So
wow, that's a lot to lose.
It is a lot.
It comes right off the top.
I hate thieves. That's my biggest.
Yeah. Well, I went through it in the store, but obviously our ticket items, for clothing is less, 2,000 for a suit. But you get people who would want to come in, and they would, there's always telltale signs. Pick out a bunch of stuff and you fix it, you tailor it for free. They don't want the tailoring. Sometimes it's okay, but sometimes that's like a tip off. All right, you don't want me to tailor it, but you want to spend $6,000. So it's like a tip off. So then they hand you the American Express card, and it's a young guy, and it says member since 1957. You're looking for those things, or the name says like Daniel Goldberg, and the guy's definitely not a Goldberg. You can tell.
Correct. Yes, I had a guy named Carlos Rodriguez on the phone, and he was like, "Oh yeah, my name is Carlos Rodriguez." Blah blah. And when we called him, my dad was like, "Answer the FaceTime." The guy was in Nigeria.
Yeah, he want to show his face.
Hear his accent, and I go, "Okay, you're Carlos Rodriguez. Answer the FaceTime." No, my FaceTime doesn't work. All right, brother. Like
those things tip you off. You learn over time, but those things, those things.
Yeah. So I don't want to stereotype. Yes, there probably is somebody named Carlos Rodriguez, but do you have?
But look, in retail, you want to protect yourself in your business. You sometimes don't have a choice but to do those things. You just don't. And I won't get into any more conversations about that. But you just can't do it. So tell me, your father's first watch. What was it?
My father's first watch, if I'm not mistaken, and then it's my first watch as well. It's a Rolex date 34 millimeter stainless steel with an aftermarket MOP dial and a little diamond bezel. He gave me that watch at how old was I? I think it was 8, but I might have been younger. Yeah,
wearing bling at 8.
Yeah, and then I had my little diamond chain and my diamond bracelet, but I could only wear it when I went out with him.
Oh, right.
And then
you weren't wearing that to school.
No, I didn't wear it to school. I probably went to school one time when I was like in middle school, but it was too much attention.
Yeah, sure.
And then that watch, when my wrist got a little bit bigger, my grandfather would wear it because I didn't wear it all the time. My grandfather would wear it. My grandfather was a very particular person and very.
So you knew your grandfather.
Yes, of course. My grandfather passed away 2 days before my 13th birthday.
Really? Wow. And I know your grandfather, he came from Cuba.
And my father did too. Yes.
Right. And what business was your grandfather in? Was he had anything to do with jewelry or jewelry making or
So
watches?
my that's how my dad got into it. Like I guess his first drive for it. My grandfather used to. I'm gonna ask Dan, what's gare? How do you say gare in English?
Okay, that's sea turtle.
Like a tortoiseshell.
Yeah. Tortoise.
You know the tortoiseshell that they used to do in the glasses.
Glasses, sure.
You know,
Yes.
but this was like real tortoiseshell, and they would make jewelry out of it.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
black coral, which now is all highly illegal.
Yeah.
But
Tortoise is illegal too.
yeah, so he would sell that and the black coral, and they would make like little pendants,
Mhm.
little teeth out of it, and then attach gold to it and polish it. And then
Right.
you would have this beautiful black, kind of like an onyx looking stone out of this black coral. So my
And he was
grandfather,
doing that in Cuba, and he also did it in Miami.
no, he just did it in Cuba. And then when he
Uh-huh.
came over to Miami, he had like a sewing machine factory. And but that was what my grandfather did in Cuba. He also went to the war. I think it was
Right.
Ethiopia versus who? Angola.
Angola. Oh, they sent him to Africa.
Correct. So my grandfather was over there in the war, and yeah, it was a little crazy for my I guess my family growing up. My grandfather
Right.
being over there, but that's
And what
I
was
guess my
your,
best
besides
drive.
the watch your father gave you, you still have that watch now?
Well, my grandmother has it. My
Oh, your
grandmother wears it
grandmother
every
has it.
day.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
so
nice. That's very nice.
yeah, so
You
that's the
keep
only
that one
watch
in
we
the
won't
family.
sell. Yeah, that's the only watch we won't sell, and it's the most valuable watch and
Mhm.
the most affordable watch that we have. So the
Right.
watch is probably worth like $2,000-3,000, but I'll trade my whole store to
Yeah, the
keep that.
sentimental value of that is
Correct.
priceless. Is really
Correct.
priceless. So what was your first watch that you had to actually spend your own money and decide that you wanted to buy?
A Submariner.
Oh, you like the Submariners, I know from the videos.
Yes, I bought a Submariner.
Was
I
it new
was
or vintage?
no, it was like a 94, 95, something like that.
Right.
I I traded a school teacher. I don't remember his name, but I remember he was a school teacher because he's like, oh, that was his thing. He was like, I'm just a teacher, I can't afford it. But he traded the Submariner for a Milgauss, and I asked him, hey, what's the condition of sub? I don't know why. I guess because I was young and I didn't know. I didn't think, hey, send me the pictures of what you're trading in. Nothing.
Uh-huh.
I said, what's the condition? He goes, oh, the watch is perfect. And when the watch gets here, the glass is cracked. And I was like, brother, what do you mean? Like the glass is cracked. And he
Right.
goes, you asked me the condition of the watch, not the glass. And I was
Uh,
like, that's like if I sell you a car with no engine and I tell you the car's perfect, but it has no engine. Like, what are you talking about?
Crazy.
So then at the time, it was like $2,500, something like that I was paying for it. And the glass was going to cost me like 500. So I bought the watch for like 2,000.
Mhm.
And then somebody came in with a Pepsi, and I traded them my Pepsi and $1,000. I'm sorry, I traded my sub and that the sub and $1,000 for a Pepsi. Then I went from like Pepsi to Coke, back and forth because I didn't know you could just swap out the bezels. Again, me being young.
Sure.
And yeah, I stopped for a while, and then I would always buy watches to flip. And then
Mhm.
about a couple months ago, I found this piece, and it's a piece that I've always wanted. I've always wanted a plastic, like an acrylic Submariner.
Right.
It meant a lot to me. So when I finally got it, it was just something very happy. I'm gonna get ready to sell it because I want to change it for something else already.
Uh-huh.
I already like accomplished that, and I got happy with it. But that was my
So you
first
don't
watch.
you're not accumulating like your own personal collection. Because I see other, I'm not going to mention any of the names, but there are other watch guys on YouTube. There's thousands of them. And some of them accumulate. I mean, they have clients and they're selling watches, but then
Personal collections.
yeah, these crazy personal collections. Now, when it came in my business, and if a customer liked the tie on my neck and I didn't have it in the store anymore, I said, well, you could buy this one. I just put it on today. And they buy it right off my neck. I would sell it just like that. I could always get another tie or another jacket or whatever.
Um, honestly, I learned it from my father. Never have nothing personal because
Yeah.
everything is to make money. It's a business.
Yeah. Well, I noticed that from your father when he sold the Patek that he loved so much.
Yes, the Celestial.
Yeah.
But while yes, the value goes up, you can always buy another one. Well, will I have a personal collection? Yes. When I have the money to afford it,
Right.
I'm definitely gonna start buying some very crazy vintage pieces because that you can't get another one of. It's
Sure,
like
sure.
that's what this is, and there's this many in existence, and they're all in collectors' hands.
Yeah.
Like that, I'll own a personal collection.
Did you happen to see that YouTube video of that gentleman who bought a Daytona when he was in the army? You have
Oh
to,
yes, that he's standing outside of like a warehouse or a building, and he
yeah,
freaks out of how much the
it's
watch
worth
is.
like $700,000. He never wore it. Had
Correct.
all the papers. He paid like $300 for it.
Correct. That's a beautiful thing. Like that's pieces like that I'm trying to have. Like
That's crazy situation.
I let them wear their Patek Philippe's and the Richard Milles, and let me sit here with a
Right.
1960 something, 1970 something Daytona or
Yeah.
Submariner, just cause like.
Now, do you really understand the Richard Mille? I remember years ago when it was just starting, getting going, and it was nice, but I never. I mean, I'm not really a fan of it. I don't really get why it's so expensive. I know how it's made and this and that, but it's like crazy expensive for that look of a sporty watch. It's not me. I'd rather have a gold watch or a platinum watch.
I'm gonna explain to you my views on Richard Mille, and for the most part, I think I have all the scenarios I've put in my head and all the reasons and everything. I think this is going to be like the most appropriate one with Richard Mille. You don't buy a Richard Mille instead of a Patek Philippe. You buy a Richard Mille when you have all the Pateks you want, when you have all the APs you want. You buy a Richard Mille because it's that you spent $2 million on a plastic watch. Yeah, I can. And like, like, yes, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's what you buy a Richard Mille when you have that FU money. Like,
right. I was about to say the exact same thing. Just a second. FU.
That's what it is. That's exactly what Richard Mille is. It's not like, oh, okay, I'd rather Richard Mille than a Patek. No, I feel like if you don't have watches and you buy Richard Mille, it's kind of like owning. It's kind of owning like a private jet without having the money to have a hangar, or you don't have properties, or you don't have a house. Like owning a crazy Lamborghini and you live with your parents.
Right.
It's kind of a big extreme, but I feel like that's what that Richard Mille is. You buy that Richard Mille when you already have all your pieces, when you have that collection, that you're like, you know what? I have everything I've wanted. I bought all these crazy pieces. Now I'm gonna start buying Richard Milles, Jacob and Co's, because 700,000, 800,000 on a plastic watch, it's nothing. I make that in X amount of hours.
Jacob makes beautiful designs in his watches. Some of them are just so fantastic. But what is the real, if someone buys a Patek and they say, oh, in a few years it's going to be worth a lot more money. What is really do you really see the value of the Jacob really increasing that much? Because they're so individually unique. It's not like it's not a mass market type of thing.
Okay. What I see is that Jacob and Co's, their watches is in a way to me like the Harry Winston watches.
Yeah, Harry Winston, right?
Crazy Chopards with these diamonds. That's not a watch you buy for an investment purpose. That's a watch you buy for an investment of your happiness. It's like you're not spending $600,000 on a watch because you want it to go up in value or whatever at that point. I feel like you're buying these watches because there's a sense of like of pleasure in like, oof, that's expensive, but I like it. Like it's kind of like
very unusual, very different and unusual.
It's very different. It's very unique. It's an art piece. Why do people spend millions of dollars on crazy artistic paintings? It's not to show off their money. It's nothing. It's you like it and you have that luxury to spend $1 million on a piece of paint that's going to be on your wall that can burn down.
Yeah, his watches are really pieces of art. They really are.
That's what it is. Of art. So I feel like that's how the watch game was way back in the days. Yeah. Like you would buy a Patek Philippe not back in the days because it went up in value or anything. You bought a Patek Philippe because it was something nice. It was something luxurious. You liked it because you liked it, not because of the hype behind it, the culture behind it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what the Jacob and Co's and these unique pieces are. Well, yes, they might drop in value. They might not be selling over retail. The MB&S, the HYTs, all these crazy individual brands, but they are works of art. And they are things that people do appreciate. And they are things that you buy because it's a sense of enjoyment. So I don't feel like that's a piece that you look at as an investment piece. Right. So I think there's two different sides there.
Yeah. So do you ever get to come to New York at all, to Manhattan?
I barely get to leave my store for lunch.
Right. I know that feeling.
Honest with you. I used to travel a lot. I've been to about 29 countries, been to New York about 8 or 9 times. But since I've started the YouTube and in the last year and a half, 2 years, I really haven't left much. Only for
I know you traveled to these, you traveled to the jewelry watch shows, the one you have in Miami, and you go to the one in Vegas. But what about the one that's in Basel in Switzerland? Would that be a good show for you to go to see what's going on there?
I would love to go. We had to convince my father and Dan to let me fly
Ah,
out there.
you should
But
go
trust
to
me,
that. I was never at that, but it's something that you should, even if you're not there to buy anything, you should see what's happening in the market, especially
that's what I want to
over
do. But
there.
right now, we're going through a thing that I like to call growing pains. We're a small company
Right.
growing at such a exponential rate
Yeah.
that we're very underpowered and undermanned. And I think we're doing great for what we have, but we could do a lot greater if we had
Mhm.
the team. So little by little, it's hard
Sure.
to get people into the circle. It's hard because it's a family based, it's not a corporate
Right.
environment.
Right. Small
So you
business.
have to get somebody who works very efficiently, but's very comfortable with how crazy and the madness here in this
Right.
office. So, like I said, I'm under my father. I'm next in line for sales and for buying, and pretty
Mhm.
much like running that part of the store and the YouTube and all that. Obviously,
So
without me,
how much does your father let you make decisions and changes without his input?
depending on his
We have to
mood,
get into this conversation.
depending on his mood. Some days he's like, "Don't talk to me, don't ask me. You know what you're doing, just go."
Okay,
And other
that's
days
good.
he's
He
like,
wants you to do it on your own. That's
and
good.
then other days he's like, why, who said you could do that? Like,
All
what
right,
are
right.
you doing? And I'm like, you just told me to make decisions on my own.
Right.
So you know how the father son thing
I
is.
know, yeah.
It's
Yeah, I
kind of
do
a mix
know.
of both, just depending on the mood he's in.
But he seems like he's a very supportive guy. I mean, I only spoke to him for less than 2 minutes before we came on this podcast, but seems like a very, very supportive person.
He's very supportive. I would think my father, and I tell him all the time, I don't understand him and the way he communicates with me sometimes. My
Mhm.
father knows how to like my father knows how to condemn me and like criticize me. And then when he steps back and like we'll go out to have a drink together every Wednesday, he'll be
Mhm.
like, "Hey, look, I'm proud of you. This is what you got to do. This is what you got to do." But in the moment, he just like goes off, and
Right.
then he sits back and he thinks about it. So sometimes I'm like frustrated. I'm like, "Look, I understand you're getting mad, but I don't know. Like, I'm sorry, excuse my ignorance. I just don't know. I wasn't brought up this way because my father's always been a part of my life. My mother and my stepfather were the ones who raised me. So
Right.
it's two different views, like two different sides, two different ways of being brought up. So sometimes he wants me to have like that hustler mentality, like in Cuba, like you're quick, you're
Right.
on point. In Spanish, you say like tiene chispa, like you're I don't know how to say it. How do you say that, Dan? You got a spark, you're
Yeah.
quick. But I'm just like, I don't know. My dad's like, "Hey, if you saw that water bottle, pick it up." And I'm like, "I didn't even see the water bottle. Like, my bad."
Right. Right.
So now I'm like more aware, attentive things. If I see somebody, like if I see a client standing by the door, I'll go and get out of my seat and I'll open the door for him. My dad
Yes.
told me that was something was important. I
You're
never
still
thought about
learning. You said you're only in your late 20s,
it. Correct.
right?
So
And
it's a thing that I
I
learned.
started working for my father full time when I got out of college. So how old was I? 22. No, I mean, I worked in the store since in my family, when you turned 13, you had to go to the store every Saturday to work
That's
when you
awesome.
turned 13. And you didn't have to do the business. If you didn't want to be in it, you could have been a doctor, lawyer, or whatever you want to do. But you had to learn the business because it was something to fall back on in case you wanted to come into it
And
and
even
do
if you
that.
didn't go with that business, you learn and you have how to run a
You
business for
learn
your future life. It's
100%.
good. That's an excellent thing. That's an excellent thing to
Right.
do.
You learned how to talk to people, how to act with people, how to deal with different situations. At
I
the beginning,
agree.
I
I
didn't help
agree.
customers. At the beginning, I was on the cash register. There's no computers yet. Pressing the buttons, doing the cash register, counting the money. That was the first thing.
I
That
feel
I
like the
did.
good thing that I have here is that CRM, um, sorry guys, everybody here in the background, we're all very crazy and very unique and very strange in our own ways.
Right.
Um, and I have a lot of guidance in my life from a lot of different point of views. So when a situation arises between me and my aunt or me and my dad, everybody is viewing the situation and they've kind of learned how to guide me. Like, look, I'm not telling you what to do, but this is my guidance on how you should have approached the situation. And I kind of hear everybody's input. And in a way, I think they all handle the situation wrong, but they all have the right things in them. So I kind of combine the goodness of each to make my own decision. And that's why I have a lot of input and a lot of support from my friends, my family, from everybody helps me and push forward my clients. And sometimes I tell my clients straight up, look, I don't know the answer to your question. I don't know how to help you, but let's try and figure this out together. And I have a lot of clients who come and teach me, and they're like, hey, Charlie, I saw on YouTube you said that you didn't know about this. I came here to show you this vintage watcher. And I really appreciate that things because, like I said, while some people, I'm an expert, to some people, famous, I'm celebrity. To me, I'm a kid who's growing, and I'm becoming, going through that becoming a man phase, and I'm learning day by day. So I appreciate like people have the patience to guide me, because everybody has that patience. So it's, I don't know, it's, I'm definitely under my father's wing, but with the help of a whole team of everybody pushing me to be better.
That's
And when I
great.
get back, it's like, yo,
And
back
it's
in.
great to work with your father and to learn from his experiences. And you have the advantage of not having to hustle for every single watch. And I got to run here, and then I got to run there, and I got to see this person and that person. Now I don't have a watch. I got to get another watch. Where's my next $100 coming from? Your
Well, no,
father went through
that's
all that.
exactly, no, that's how my life is. That's exactly what we do. We both do it together. That's
Yeah,
exactly how me and my father run it. It's just craziness of how do you find this? How do you do this? What do
right.
you do here?
Now, did you ever think about becoming an authorized dealer for any brand, or is the
No,
investment just too much?
no, because that's not the path I want to go to.
Hmm.
The path I want to go to, that you're controlled. The whole purpose of running your own business is to not have a boss. And like that, you have a boss. You have Rolex telling
Hmm.
you have to buy this much, you have to sell this much.
Right.
No, the path I want to go in my life is, my father always says he's going to retire at 50.
Yeah.
Um,
Tell him
I'm
he's crazy.
I'm trying to retire before my father. um, my goal for CRM, my goal is not for CRM Jewelers to be a very big worldwide store. My goal is for CRM Jewelers to become a lifestyle brand that anybody can take it. I want to go from watches to everything, to properties, to, I want to be like an investment company.
Right.
But the watches is cool. The watches make you look big. The watches have their stories to them. But the people who really make money in this world are the people selling big lighters and pens and paper, that you have a 400-500% return on investment. Watches, you have 8, 10, 12%. Now with crazy market inflation, 13, 14%
Right.
profit margin. So the second that you swipe a credit card, boom, 4% goes away. So I have to
Sure.
charge that additional. So I want to create more of a lifestyle brand that people can associate themselves with, connect to the family, connect to show that a small little Hispanic family living in Hialeah and in Miami, which are not the craziest, richest parts, are just normal, very small towns here in Florida, made something from nothing. So I kind of want it to be like a motivation for people
Hmm.
to it doesn't stop you. Like, I thank God I grew up blessed. Thank God my family provided me with a lot of things that I needed in life. I didn't grow up a millionaire, but very well off. I had, my first car was a new car. It
Right.
wasn't a BMW or Ferrari. It was a little Mazda, but it was still a new car.
Sure. Sure.
My father did come from working for free for his grandfather working in a factory. So it shows that just because you came from a poor family doesn't mean a poor family has to come from you. And
Absolutely not.
and
Especially in America, it doesn't have to be.
of course, and my family is all immigrants, and a lot of people that I know are immigrants, and that shouldn't stop you in any way, shape, or form. So I kind of wanted to be of yes, the watches, but not everybody can afford watches. Not everybody can have that. So I want to have something that everybody can relate to, whether it's clothing, whatever it is. I want to have something that people can connect to and join it as a lifestyle, as a way of life, a way of a motivation, whether it just becomes a
Mhm.
TV show and I don't have to sell watches anymore.
Sure.
I don't care about that. It's never been about the money to me. I've never been money motivated. It's about the touch that you leave in people's lives. So that's something that's bigger to me, that I rather have a company that's self-sufficient running, and it's just like click and order now online. And I can attend people and talk to people just cause, not because I need to make a living out of that.
Right.
So
And I think you have a great start because your brand, your family is really the face of the brand. And that's something great to have because it's truthful and it's transparent and it's very easy to get your message across when you have all of that all together, and that part you already have together because
Correct.
you have it on YouTube.
Thank
You know,
you. Thank you.
and
I
I
think
see,
that's the most important part.
yeah, and I see the people leaving comments. I read the comments on your YouTube, and I leave comments too. Who is it?
Appreciate you.
Is it
Appreciate
Dan who
you.
answers the comments?
It's Dan who answers the comments.
Okay,
Yes, it is.
so tell Dan. I don't know if you can hear me because I heard he's in the
Dan, real
room, and
quick.
I heard he's in the room in the back there.
Yeah.
So, so I'm the guy who always picks out the best Carlos' best quote in the video.
Oh,
What's
You
up,
what?
man?
Hey, Dan.
Nice to meet you.
I'm
I've been
you
hearing
too.
the whole conversation, man. Very interesting.
All right, good, good. So I'm the guy who always picks out the best quote Carlos has in the video.
Oh, shit.
That's me.
The one that said, "Hey, like you guys should keep track of these quotes," and I'm like, "Yeah."
I
if
said, you
want
got to
quit,
keep
go
track
ahead."
of these quotes. The last video, I said the best quote, Carlos says, we all got firearms here.
that's why I was saying we're very secure here at the store.
That was the
How about
best quote.
How about I'm in chats with dealers all over the world?
Yeah, that's right. There's always some good quotes. Carlos comes up with something out of the blue. He doesn't even know he's doing it. But
Yeah, I know,
he
I
always
know.
comes
It's
up
kinda
with
cool.
something out of the blue. That's a great quote in one of your videos.
Yeah, but what Charlie said about the whole growing pains, that's like we have so many ideas, so many things, and it's kind of crazy sometimes. And our family's Cuban, and that even adds more to the craziness.
Right.
But I'm sure we'll figure it all out. And like
Yeah,
Charlie
look,
said,
it takes
transform the
time.
company.
You got to keep pushing. You got to have the inventory. The main thing is, and I can tell you from my experience, and because I learned it from my grandfather and my father, is that, and you could see it if you look in any luxury stores today, whether they're, if you go to a Rolex store today, an AD, right? How many watches they have in the case? They almost don't have any watches in the case.
Right.
If you go to any upscale, even if it's Louis Vuitton or Prada, any of those high-end clothing stores, the inventory is like very scarce. Where's all the stuff? When my grandfather was in business, he had 10 clothing stores in Manhattan, men's clothing. It was so packed. You couldn't pull a suit from the rack. It was so packed. And my father's mentality was the same. Buy as much as you can. Don't be afraid to have inventory. You know why? Because you could always sell it. You could always have a sale. You could always give it off price. Because the mentality was, if a customer was going to come in and say, hey, I want to buy a suit, I'm not going to show him one. I'm going to show him 7 in his size. And if he sees 7, maybe he'll buy 3. If I don't have the goods, I can't show it to him. I'll make one, I'll sell 1 when I could have sold 3. So always buy as much as you could. That was our mentality. Buy as much as you could buy.
Right.
And we had, my grandfather's day, it was everything in the store had 2 prices. So the price on the suit, he never intended to get. Everything was a negotiation.
Right.
But my father, when he went to Madison Avenue, that was a different clientele, right next to St. Patrick's Cathedral, right near Rockefeller Center. That was high-end brand name. So in the store, everything had a price, and it was a good price, good value price, but that's the price you had to pay. If you didn't want to pay our price,
right.
Yeah, if you didn't want to pay our price, come back when we have a sale. We had a sale twice a year. No problem. So we had customers who would come in at the beginning of the season. They bought everything regular price. Why? Because they wanted it right away. And then you have customers who wait till the end of the season who come in because they want to buy on sale. And you had both customers. You had the sale customers and you had the regular price customers. You needed them both.
Yeah.
And the most important thing was the repeat customers. That's what keeps the business going. You must have those repeat customers. You always need new ones, but you got to get those people who bought from you to come back again to buy again. In your situation, maybe they trade something in and they trade up. My situation, they don't trade in clothes. They just bought for the new season. But you always needed those new customers and always keep in touch with them over time.
What makes also one thing that makes our industry unique, especially during these times, is these times. I mean, what's going on right now, it's never happened before in the history of man.
Yeah,
So a lot of people are coming to us and saying, it's like they have this warped idea of value versus price. Like, what is the value of something? I mean, luxury in itself is not necessary. So it would never have intrinsic value like water or food or shelter.
Sure.
But it has whatever value it has. Like, why argue with that? And I think that we're seeing right now a transformation due to all this inflationary pressures. Maybe some of this stuff is irreversible, and so it makes our industry interesting because not only are these like products really attractive, like eye candy, that drawing people, it also is creating, I'm noticing this on the comments, just like you read them,
Yeah.
a lot of controversy because people are coming in. You have the haves that loaded up on these watches, right, and keep buying them on the way up. They're in favor of what's going on. They kind of realize that. And then you have the have-nots, or maybe the guys that used to have watches but can't afford them anymore, and they're just saying, well, this is an abomination, it's not right. But it is what it is, and we've never seen this before.
It's whatever the market's going to bring. I was talking to Charlie about a couple of nice watches I have. I also really got into over the years, which you guys don't sell. It's a lower end watch, but the Citizen watches. They have some beautiful designs. They give you a 5-year warranty. They're not crazy expensive. And I bought like 6 or 7 of them, all different looking. Split second timer. I bought a waterproof diving one because I like them. They're fun to wear every day. Right. This is the one I bought. I bought this on eBay. I'll just show it to you here quickly. You see what this watch looks like? Wait, let me see if I can get it. You see what that looks like?
Yeah.
It looks kind of like a Breguet.
It looks like a Breguet or an IWC, right? But this is a Citizen watch. Nice. And I bought this on eBay, and I wore it in the store many times, and people would come up to me and goes, "Oh, is that IWC?" And I go, no, it's not IWC. But a customer of mine saw this and he asked me about it. And I told him, it's a Citizen and it's not very expensive. He said, you know what? Could you get me 3 of those? I want to get one for each of my sons. So I went on eBay and I bought them for him, and he paid me what I paid. And I gave it to him, just as a courtesy, to do something for the guy. But I'm not the kind of person, like if you said the Rolex, I love the President 18 karat gold, maybe white face, or the Platinum is my favorite. So the Platinum used to be 30, 40, 50 grand, maybe at one time.
Hundreds.
Yeah. I'm not the kind of guy that would say, oh, now it's 100,000. I'm going to buy it at 100. I'm the kind of person who would wait for it to go back to maybe what a regular price would be at a, if it ever happens, who knows, but.
The client is here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna end up. So that would, so that would be me. But there are people who want it and they chase it and they have the money and they go ahead and buy it no matter what the price.
Yeah. In fact, just one last thing, just to, people are like, okay, it has to come down because it's just too much, right? And too much is kind of like a gray area. It's hard to define what is too much. But last week, Carlos and I had a meeting, face-to-face meeting with a group of hedge fund Wall Street guys that are into the crypto industry, who are trying to kind of standardize watches as a security, so big institutions can actually allocate capital to these things that are not as liquid as the more traditional investments. So that shows you how far watches have come, and maybe this is a game changer for watches, and people will be waiting. Some people will be waiting forever for them to come back down, and they never will. So interesting.
Right. And it happened also in the art, because people get together and they invest in one piece of art as a group. So maybe it'll happen in your industry too. Very well could happen.
All exclusive collectibles are very desirable right now because they kind of diversify away from the traditional markets, which are, very volatile. And, some clients see it as a very safe investment. Hey, I'll park my money here. This is always going to be desirable. This piece of art, this watch, whatever. And yeah, it's pretty interesting times we're living in.
Yeah, definitely. And we hope everybody is safe. What's going on with the war in over there in Russia and Ukraine, because that's a whole terrible situation in and of itself.
That's another crazy thing. So
yeah. So listen, man. Charlie, nice talking to you, Dan. Charlie, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate this. I know I know you're busy. I know the family's busy.
You're good, brother. I appreciate you. I appreciate the conversation.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a very much needed thing to say out there to the people who don't know a lot. So you got a lot of the inside story.
Yeah, I think it was. And if you want, just now at the end, just tell everybody here where everybody could find CRM Jewelers. You want to say your phone number, your social media? Go ahead and say it all out here.
You guys can go check out CRM Jewelers on YouTube, Instagram. We also have all of our individual pages: CRM Charlie, CRM Betty, CRM Dan, Mr. CRM Official, which is my father. There you can DM any one of those pages for watches. Best thing to do is just give us a call at the store at 305-349-5000. We're located here in Miami. If you guys need some help, some suggestions, I'll do my best to give you guys as much advice as possible always. So check out the YouTube channel, I guess, if you guys want to learn about watches. And thank you for having me. I really appreciate everything. Thank you for the support, and thank you for, I guess, this podcast. Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
I really appreciate you coming on. I thought it was really great, and I think all of the listeners and of course viewers that will see this will not only learn about family business and about your business, but also about watches and watches in general. And I think it was really great. Thanks again.